Hi, this is saxophonist Ed Calle from sunny South Florida. Today, accompanied by great mentors and colleagues Mike Lewis and Hal Batt, the writers and producers of my new album, Soulful Nights. I am most thankful for this opportunity to share our latest release with you on Jazz Across the Pond with the incomparable Jazz Cat and Mr. G. Love you guys. Thank you all for tuning in.
Well, what can I say? We have just been watching the most wonderful and listening to the most fabulous track. The track is called Desert Rose. It features our dear friend, Mr. Ed Calle. It's from an album, it's for a project called Soulful Nights from 2022. We're going to be talking a lot about that, but we're also going to be talking to the other two gentlemen on the screen with us. Ladies and gentlemen, Jazz Across the Pond is very proud, very privileged, all the way from sunny Florida. Ladies and gentlemen, would you please welcome Mr. Ed Calle, Mr. Hal Batt, and Mr. Mike Lewis to our show tonight.
Hello, guys.
Thank you.
Alrighty.
Hi,
Okay,
everyone.
track straight on, because we got a lot to get through tonight. Ed,
You got it.
first of all, welcome back to the show. I had the very great honor of interviewing you a couple of years ago. It's now notched up, just under 1,000 people have watched it. So thank you so much. And it's people keep ringing on going, I loved Ed Calle. He's fabulous on that. So it's wonderful. Now, very quickly, Ed Calle, just to bring people up to speed, born in Caracas, Venezuela, and actually, you were very reluctant to play the saxophone initially. I remember the interview and how your dad kept going, look, play in the band. And you were like, yeah, whatever. And eventually you went with it. And of course, the rest of it is history. Very briefly, sir, bring us up to speed about, because you're a Grammy Award winner with Man Blue, which blows me away every time I play it. Briefly, tell us a bit more about your history, sir.
Well, first, thanks for having me, having us, and it's great to see you as always. I'm so thankful for all you do for us, for me, and for every artist and every listener that's out there. But I grew up in Venezuela, grew up in Spain. I come from the old world in many ways. You know, when I grew up in Spain with my grandparents, we had no refrigerator. My grandmother would kill the chickens in the kitchen. So I feel like I belong to both the old and the new world. It was my dad's suggestion that got me into playing the saxophone, and really it was the saxophone gave me something that I had never had until that time, which was it gave me a voice that allowed me to communicate with people in a way. I've always been kind of a quiet person, always been kind of a nerd in school, you know, like to study and all those things, and so the saxophone really gave me an opportunity to connect with people. It was I was very lucky with that, and from the very first day, I think there was a connection there with the sound and that whole thing. And then through the years, I've had the great fortune of working with people like Hal and Mike, who you're going to meet today. That are you get places because of people. You're very fortunate, like you guys are introducing us and bringing us to so many people around the world, and I'm very fortunate that way. Went to public school here in the United States, went to the University of Miami, studied, and along the way, Mike and Hal have been there for me from the very beginning. To So much of it is to mentor you, to help you to learn and to put you in places where you're going to succeed in terms of the recording studio. And I've had the good luck of working with so many incredible artists, and I just keep working at it, trying to get better, trying to learn, trying to make better music. And that part of it is just, it's really fun. It's never gone away. I'm still the little kid in school trying to learn how to play the saxophone. So
Well, we're going to move on from it. I mean, I know if anybody wants to learn more about you, you're going to have to go back and watch my interview with yourself and that, because the list of credentials of who you work for is like the who's who of the. But there was one lovely story. I revisited the interview recently, and there was a lovely story because you live in the lovely Miami and study, and you were saying that once one of the many times, but you were here in London, and we had a snowstorm. Unusual for England to have a snowstorm, but we had a snowstorm, and you came out from a gig with Arturo, your very, very good friend, who we interviewed about a month ago. Fabulous man. And you were saying it was so you couldn't get a taxi, and through the snow, this is dedication, through the snow you went to Ronnie Scott's just to sit there and have a bit more jazz. Now that is dedication, sir.
that was fun. That's one I'll never forget. And I wish I had, back then, I wish I was carrying my the selfies and all that stuff. But here's Arturo Sandoval and I, we had been watching snooker on TV, which is very popular in England. And here it is, this unbelievable snowstorm. I mean, it had to be a foot deep.
Yeah.
And we're marching through there. We look like a couple of guys going to war with our instruments on our back. And by the time we got to Ronnie Scott's, I remember somebody helped us, and I was sitting in my underwear in the green room while they were drying our pants. It was crazy. But go figure, the one time that there's a foot of snow on the ground, we're there playing at Ronnie's house. But we weren't going to miss that for the world. It's such a beautiful place to play. And the audiences in London are so special. They love music and they love us, and we have so much fun. And I think they love the fact that we speak that other English, the American English. So
Yeah.
and
I
in the
get
case
alone today. Well, I was in London last week and I went to the Pizza Express to see Dave Cos interview. Fabulous in concert, so because we interviewed him last week. And then from there, I want a bit more jazz. So I went to Ronnie Scott's and sat there quietly with a glass of wine and I put it on Mr. G's credit card. So there you go. On that note, and you to Mr. G.
Wow. Well, I am going to say one thing real quick, give Roger some props. At the first time, I'm embarrassed to say, but the first time I heard you was a year ago when you were on Roger's show. And it's been a wonderful exploration going through your body of work. I will still say that Sax Appeal, for whatever reason, everybody's got a favorite. I never tell an artist what my favorite is, but my favorite is Sax Appeal. It's a great project. And actually, it's got almost 1.6 million views on Spotify at this point. So it's a great project.
My Latin American listeners, and I come from there, and we're kind of all homies, I guess, in that way.
Right.
That's the beauty of making so many different, being able to play so much different kind of music and to record so many different things, that you're able to record, the boleros from my home, and then all the great American music and the great world music. So I'm blessed, and it's wonderful to know that people are listening. And I'm always amazed. I was just in LA this weekend, and I had a young girl come up. She's 12 years old, and she'd been playing the saxophone for about 4 months. And I love kids because they remind me of where I come from. I come just like them. I grew up. And she said to me, she said, I've wanted to meet you since I was 10 years old because I listen to all your music and I watch your interviews.
Right.
So you guys are famous with the 10 and 12-year-olds as well. And it's just what a blessing that is to have people listen and to want to emulate. So we must have spent 30, 40 minutes, working on the saxophone and helping her with things that I know are going to make her. And she's already, for somebody playing 4 months, sounds incredible. But that's
one of the
blessings that we have.
One of the other things that you've been blessed with is the two gentlemen that we're looking at just below us. And so I'd like to have an opportunity to introduce, if I might, a gentleman who is no stranger to either side of the studio glass. He's a composer, producer, engineer, and a multi-instrumentalist, Mr. Hal Batt. Hal, welcome to the show.
Thank you,
I
guys.
want to let our audience know that Hal is the founder and owner of After Hours Music Recording Studios, which has been a family-owned and operated business for over 37 years. After Hours Studios is a highly endorsed, highly rated music recording studio located in North Miami. So Hal, we'll talk a little bit about your studio in a second, but you were born in Miami, Florida. You attended the University of Miami School and studied music. I mentioned you were a multi-instrumentalist, so we'll start with, it's going to be first things first, right? How many different instruments do you actually play?
Great question. The first thing, I'm a guitarist. I studied with Vincent Breedice. So I went to Miami-Dade for the first 2 years. Then I went over to UM to study with Peter Harris. And after that, I went out on tour. So that's my main instrument. But I found out that I just love producing records. I just was able to see the big picture. And that's where my talent lies. And of course, I ended up building a recording studio because I got tired of paying so much money to all this studio, figuring out how to make mistakes and fix them. And, it got expensive. So I built After Hours in my house originally back in 1986. And Lionel Hampton came to my house and played. So I was doing these kind of things back then when it wasn't being done on 24 track. We were in my house recording with Sylvia Bennett, Lionel, and making records. And then I decided to sell the house. I said, oh man, I don't have a studio. What did I do? So I built a studio right down the street from Criteria Recording Studios, and been here ever since 1988. So that's my love. This is what I do, produce records. I can see the picture. And
well, the beautiful thing,
I wanted to make a record for Eddie for years. He's been on my records, but I wanted to make one for him. And Mike and I got together to do this.
Well, one of the things that I've been amazed with when I look at the number of clients that you've had, I mean, it's been some mind-blowing people. I mean, Julio Iglesias, who actually you worked with when he was the #1 Latin artist on Billboard.
Well, yeah, in 1994, I did the song Agua Dulce, Agua Salada. I co-wrote it. and did the arrangement, the full arrangement for it. And after that, I got a publishing deal and went on to do Cheyenne, worked with Shakira, almost every top Latin artist at that point.
Right.
But before that, I was in R&B working with Nick Martinelli. I don't know if you know of him. I worked with Gerald Austin, Billy Paul, Gene Carn. So that's when I brought Ed to play on Gene Carn's record. So it was fun. I prefer working in the R&B market. I really love it. Tom Bell, those are my favorite producers.
Well, the other aspect too is that when I look at your bio, you've got multiple awards. You've gotten 2 ASCAP Latin Awards. And for our audience, ASCAP stands for the American Society of Composers, Authors, and Publishers. You've picked up 2 ASCAP Latin Awards. You've picked up a BMI Award, which is given by the Broadcast Music Incorporated. They're a performance rights organization here in the United States. You picked up an award from them. And you've also picked up a GMA Dove Award.
I did, the Gospel
Latin Album of the Year.
Right.
For a gospel project that you did. It's just mind-blowing.
Yeah, kind of weird, kind of scattered, right?
Well, as it should be. To be a good studio, you want to be able to cater to everybody.
That's true. Then I got lucky to work with Sandy Patty from that Gospel Music Award. Wow. And they're all great singers. And I really love working with great singers and great soloists. It does something to me, you know, it really works. So.
Well, the other thing I love about your studio, you're so diversified. In order to, if you're not recording, the other services that you offer, you guys can do custom one-offs. I mean, you can do design work. You provide services. You can do repairs. You can modify vintage and modern equipment.
Hold on, that's my son, Jacob.
But it falls under the auspices of the studio.
Yeah, that's true. He's really great. We just got done mixing the Taj Mahal new album. That comes out.
That comes out at the end of the year.
Yeah, it comes out December 9th. It's being released and actually my son mastered it. I mixed it and he mastered it. Right. So John Simon produced it. I don't know if you know John. He's an old-time producer, but a lot of hit records. Amazing.
I love Taj Mahal. His last project that he did was with Kebmo. That was pretty.
Be careful. It's a little different project for Taj Mahal.
Oh, I'm certain.
Hear the blues guitar. It's a little different.
Okay, I'm going to quickly jump in now, consciously aware of time and that.
Okay,
I'm going to introduce the third and a very, very important part of this trio, and the Mr. Mike Lewis. Good evening, sir.
Good evening, guys. How's everybody?
Now, somebody's phone's ringing.
Lady Gaga, just won't leave me alone.
You're such a great arranger. That's why everybody wants you to arrange their music.
You're in demand.
Lady Gaga included. Yeah.
Okay, there's a lovely. I'm going to very quickly read. There's a lovely introduction to yourself on that, and this is where Hal has written a lovely article. It says that Mike Lewis, his name is on the records that I've listened to, and for me to hire him was a great thrill. After that session, Mike started hiring me to play guitar for almost all his sessions. I have the utmost respect for Mike. He's been a major hit record producer over 30 years. That alone shows his longevity into the music business. He's a one-of-a-kind man, fair, but also very loyal to the people that he works with. And he's a great mentor. That is written to you, Mike, from Hal.
I never knew that.
Oh my God, I forgot I wrote that. That was a long time ago. Oh man.
How much did I pay you to write that?
Check the employer yet.
Okay, Mike, you are just fabulous. I've been looking through your resume. You have performed with the likes of Frank Sinatra, Tony Bennett, Sammy Davis Jr., The Temptations, Supremes, Tom Jones, Joni Mathis, Four Tops, Debbie Reynolds, Judy Garland, and Ray Charles. The list goes on and on. But I want to talk to you about that. But one thing I do want to talk to you about, because our paths may not have passed, because I used to work on the cruise ships, and I know that you actually arranged and produced over 50 full-length stage shows for the Royal Caribbean Cruise Lines, Celebrity Cruises, Norwegian Cruises, Costa Cruises, and Crystal Cruise. I was on Cunard. So, Mike, please tell us how can you incorporate in that to such time? Tell us about your career, sir.
I think you did a pretty good job.
Yeah.
Well, all of those shows, stage shows, were all recorded at after hours. Yeah. In those days, Hal, since he had to play guitar, we would bring in another engineer, our good friend Dennis, but Hal played guitar on all of those shows too. And it was, I hate to say, it was sort of music by the pound. It was so much in a short time. I remember when I first started, they said, well, you got 2 months to do this first show. Then they waited and they waited, and they were down to 6 weeks. And then they got down to 5 weeks, and I had to do 2 shows and record them and get them all mixed in 5 weeks. 100 minutes of music. But we, you in this business, you find a way to do it. I've never missed a deadline yet. I guess one of these days I will when they plant me somewhere. Hey, he didn't finish that project.
Too late now, right?
Well, the thing is, I was stage manager, so I would be the one on the sound, making sure the sound was on. Then I would have loved to have worked with you then, sir. That would have been amazing.
Well, I don't know if we had any shows on the Cunard line, but I never knew. Once we gave them all the stuff and the music, and in those days it was tapes, and it could have wound up anywhere.
Yeah.
People used to tell me, "Hey, I saw we did a show about the life of Sammy Davis. Remember that, Hal?"
Yeah, I do.
Did you play on that, Ed? I think you did.
I think so, yeah.
We did a show about the life of Sammy Davis, and it was supposed to go on just one cruise ship. And I bet you over the years, a dozen people have said, "Hey, I saw that show on," and it was always a different ship.
Yeah.
So who knows where, where it is now? It could be in China right now. I wouldn't even know.
Oh,
But you said I've been in the business 30 years. You're being kind. I've been doing this for 50 years.
yeah.
Long time. I'm not proud of how old I am, but I'm still hanging in there.
Oh, well, it's just amazing. I said, I'm looking through your list. I mean, it's just an amazing. Burt Bacharach, Judy, Bobby Daver, Ray Charles. The list goes on. And I mean, so to have you on our show, we are very honored, sir.
Well, it's an honor for me to be here, and with my 2 good friends, Hal and Ed. I've known them both for many years. I've known Ed since he got out of college, which is at least 30 or 40 years ago, right? And we've worked together on many, many projects, and we would have done this one sooner, but every time I talked to him about it, he was either busy working or working on his PhD. And I couldn't get him for a long time. Then COVID came along and knocked us, put us back a couple of years there. So we finally finished it, and we're all very proud of it. I think he did a great job, and so did Hal and everybody involved. It wasn't that many people involved. It was basically me and Hal and Ed and a couple of other people.
Well, I hate to take this mantle away from someone, but you're not actually the oldest person that Kevin and myself have interviewed. We interviewed Terry Gibbs, who's 97 years
old. Oh, yeah. He's a real old timer.
I tell you what,
is he still active?
Yes, he is. He's writing his autobiography at the moment.
God bless him. God, 97. Oh man, I should live.
This is only the 25th update he's had to do because he keeps living. So,
yeah, you keep living. You got more stuff to put in there. Add a few, another couple of chapters.
Okay, I think this is a perfect moment to jump in now. Kevin, would you be good enough to introduce the first track from the Soulful Nights album, please?
Yes, we're going to take a short break to listen to another amazing track from Ed Calle's outstanding 2022 project, Soulful Nights. Now, we've selected the very moving song, You're My Everything, featuring the legendary vocalist, Mr. John Cicada, who also performs on 2 additional tracks, including the Spanish version of this song. So take a listen and we'll be right back.
Shines above you makes the bluebirds sing, the stars that twinkle way up in the sky tell me I'm in love. When I kiss your lips, I feel the rolling thunder to my fingertips. And all the while my head is in a spin. Deep within, I'm in love. You're my everything,
That to me is just fabulous. We've got Christmas only weeks away. This has got to be the #1 Christmas present. Put it at the top of the list for Santa Claus, Father Christmas. I think that album has got to be there. And we've already had good news. Kevin, what is the good news about the climbing of the in the charts?
Well, I predicted this the last time we looked at the charts this morning, obviously earlier than the interview. The group Smooth Jazz Global had Ed's track and everybody's track, really, the project at number 93. And just from right before we went on the air, it has jumped up to number 79. So we're real pleased with that. And we expect all of the other jazz charts to pick it up soon.
Congratulations to the three of you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Okay, so let's talk more about that. We've just literally teased our audience with a little bit of a track there. There'll be another track at the end of the interview. But who first met and how did you all meet? And where did the idea, what's the backstory behind the album, please? For anybody.
I started talking to Ed about this at least 5 years ago, right, Ed?
Yeah, at
At
least.
least 5 years ago. And like I said, it was hard for us to get together. Either I would get busy on a project and I wouldn't be available, or he would then get busy on a project and not be available. And then he started working on his PhD. He's now Dr. Ed Calle, you know. And by the way, his PhD isn't even in music.
It's in mathematics, isn't it?
Well, I think you have a master's in math, don't you? An
Master's.
undergraduate?
I have a lot of education in math, but it's
Yeah.
I really looked at why we're having a problem in the United States in learning math, and I did a tremendous statistics. Looked at about 80,000, 8 to 10,000 students, but used all the math skills and stuff. I love math, and math and music are really the same thing. You know, the treble clef, the bass clef, they're all just an XY graph. And
1,
it
2,
goes
3,
from
4.
there.
1, 2, 3,
Yeah,
4.
so 1, 2, 3, 4. That's right.
Anyway, Ed and I talked about it for a number of years. And finally, one day I said to Hal, would you want to work with me? Let's work together. And if we can get Ed in here, you know, nail him down and do something. Then I talked to Ed and I said, Ed, I think my first foray was, is there a Latin version of smooth jazz? Remember that conversation?
Yes.
And then we decided there was, but I'm not really into the Latin genre all that much as he is particularly. I don't even speak the language. So we decided to make not a jazz record. I even said, Ed, let's don't make another bebop jazz record. You've made those. Let's make something for people who are not musicians. That's really what my concept was. And I mentioned that to Hal. And we started picking tunes, and you know, one thing led to another. And here we are. We have finally got together and did it. I mean, it was a labor of love, really. We produced it ourselves, and but I think it came out great. I've been waiting my whole life to work with Ed Calle, and I'm glad I finally lived long enough to do it.
It's funny. I feel the same way about Mike. I have to tell you that Mike, when I was a very young guy, I just got out of college, I'd go, you know, Mike would call me to record, and Mike is a legend. I mean, he's worked with everybody and done everything, and he does it in a way. And I said this earlier, but I always say this to him and to Hal. They both have a magical way of putting you in a place to succeed. The way that Mike writes, whether it's composing or arranging, he is just, when he lays that stuff down, when he writes it down on the paper, he knows exactly what it's going to sound like when I play it. And it just makes my life so easy. And these are two gentlemen who have been there and have taught me so much in the studio growing up. You know, that they really become your ears. These are not just your friends, they are your mentors, they are your teachers. And when you're working with legends, as I do every day of my life, every time they say something, you pay attention and you learn something. And this for me is one of the great highlights of my life. I'm thrilled because people are getting to hear Mike's songs and the music, and it really is a labor of love. I'm doing it with people who I love and respect and who have taught me. And so I'm thrilled, and people have just reacted in beautiful ways to this music. Everywhere I go, they're I love your record. I love your records. And I'm hearing it from musicians. I'm hearing it from fans. I'm hearing it from everyone. So I'm thrilled. What an honor it is to work with talented people like this.
You know, from a production standpoint, Ed is very easy to work with because he's amenable to anything you suggest, and he can do it all. I don't know. I remember saying to you, he played a solo on one of the tunes, and I said, Ed, that's way too good. That's way too good. It's going to go over the head of anybody but the most astute musicians. Play a solo that 30 years from now, all the young up and coming saxophone players will be trying to learn that so they can play it for their school band. You know, but if you do giant steps, that wouldn't happen.
Yeah.
So,
Well-
we erased what he did, and he played and took one more take and nailed it.
Well,
I
I will
forget
tell
the
you
tune
that
now.
Roger and I are very, very particular about what we play on our shows. And one of the things that he and I have discussed is that if the quality of the production is not good enough, we're not going to play it. And that's where, you know, again, with Hal, I looked at the ratings that you picked up over the years. I got tired of looking. I went 5 years back, and you've got nothing but 5-star ratings. So, I mean, it's pretty impressive because everybody knows you don't keep a 5-star if you get 1.4, because all of a sudden you're a 4.9 for the rest of your life. So pretty impressive. But I actually listened to the project over my surround sound system. I
Nice.
listened to it with headphones on, and I listened to it with earbuds, and it passes the test. The clarity, the separation, every aspect of what you've done in the studio, taking a Mike and Ed's work and your involvement as well. It's just a beautiful project.
I must say one thing about Ed, the tone of the sax. The
Oh,
tone
yeah.
has, Ed, remember I said, what's different about your tone now? Tell him what you did, please, about the mouthpiece.
I was practicing at home. You know, I have with playing with in so many loud stages, I have a ruptured diaphragm. I have a hernia of the diaphragm, which is really tough. And so I started playing a mouthpiece that I had played many years ago. And I was in the other room, and my wife, who is my biggest critic and has to listen to all the things that don't sound so good, you know, when you're practicing, right?
Right.
And I started playing, and she ran in the room. She said, "What is that? What are you doing?" I said, "Oh, I'm just trying this, blah, blah, blah." And a friend of mine makes these mouthpieces, and I play them, and it's been that change. You know, it's just funny. Sometimes you go backwards to those things, and sometimes injuries will force you to change. I'm lucky, and just, you know, to tell you the truth, Hal just has he knows exactly how to mic it. He knows what mics to use. His equipment is as good as it gets anywhere in the world. You know, it doesn't matter whether you're at Abbey Road or you're at his place. It's the cream of the crop, and he has great ears, and so he's going to make me sound good no matter what I do.
It's hard for you to sound bad, Ed, come on.
I tell you what, the compliments are coming out amazingly tonight. I mean, it's going to
A
be
love fest. It's a love fest.
okay. We've got a couple of minutes left. We've still got a couple of questions to get in. I'm going to jump in now and say, how did you decide to get Casey of Casey and the Sunshine Band and Johnson Carter to join you on this album? How did that work out?
Well, Hal and Mike asked me. They said, "Are there any singers you'd like to work with?" And I'm very close with both of those guys, and Mike and Hal are very close with both of those guys. John and I went to school together, and Casey, who is a living legend, and you know, he's a signature guy. I mean, when you think of Miami and you think of disco and you think of music, that's the guy you think of. And Mike was there doing all that stuff with him.
Yeah.
These guys have been doing all that stuff with him for his career. And so I said, I'd love to have them both. And it was odd because KC, I don't think KC has ever made a record without the band, like without in his own space. So we, you know, I reached out to him, and they're incredibly humble people, both of them. Sakata and you know, these are guys who have sold hundreds of millions of records together.
Right.
But they're incredible, humble people, incredible musicians, and they both said yes. And I'm so thrilled and so honored that they're there because they sound spectacular.
You know, KC didn't want to do it initially until Ed talked to him, but he didn't think he could sing well enough.
Right.
Because he's been
Oh, I
singing
thought
his
you did a
own
great
songs for
job
so
on it.
long. He never sings any other songs. I said, come on, man, you'll do fine. Just, you know, come on in and do it. And he
Pick
said,
a song.
well,
Pick
I
a
don't
song,
know.
we said.
And then Ed talked to him and finally convinced him to do it. But he's very approachable. He's a nice guy.
When
Yeah.
when he said that to me, he said, I don't think I'm good. I just said, KC, you're a superstar. I'm your biggest fan. It's like I know you're gonna sound incredible. But that's the humility of so many of the great musicians. I find that almost all of them are that way. We see them and we put them up way up there on this pedestal, and then you realize that they're just people trying to get better. It's really quite incredible.
Now, very
Well,
quickly. Sorry, Kevin, go on.
sorry, the nice thing about the project is it's not only that you included 2 vocalists, but you've also introduced strings on this project, which I think just puts it over the top. I love that. I love that aspect of it. Whose idea was that to bring in?
Mike and Hal.
I have to take the blame for the strings. Yeah, but Hal recorded it all. It's got to be well recorded. It's got to sound good, no matter what you write. If it doesn't sound good,
Mike actually writes great string arrangements. I mean, that's really his forte, the strings. And I got to give it to him. They're great. I mean, that's it. Regardless of how
strings, but I didn't want to make this. I didn't want to make it into a Sinatra type string arrangement where that's 50s. It's great. I love Nelson Riddle, but Ed is not Nelson Riddle. He is 2022, and Sinatra's been dead for 20 years. So I tried to make him sound current without being syrupy, if that's a good word to use there.
It is. That's a good.
And
I'm going to ask, if time is running out, I'm going to ask one quick question. And then Kevin has got a last question as well. The album is fabulous. It's stunning. How did you decide on the covers? Because there's a Marvin Gaye, there's a Bobby Caldwell, there's a Burt Bacharach, Hal David. How did you come about? I mean, there's such amazing selection of songs. How did you get it narrowed down to select those songs?
Hal probably had more to do with that than any of us.
Yeah.
Who did, me?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, you picked the Marvin Gaye song, and
Well, actually, KC did, which kind of freaked me out. Go, whoa, okay, we're gonna do Inner City Blues. Hold on there. So it turned out really well.
Yeah.
He had to sing more than 3 notes in a row. He had to actually sing, and he did a great job.
He did do a good job.
My pleasure.
I thought you did a great job. I also thought that having both the English and Spanish version with John worked beautifully too. And I will say this, there's something about hearing it in Spanish for me. There's more emotion. So I'm glad you guys did that. Yeah, it's beautiful.
There's only one version. There's only one version of that tune in Spanish by Ana Gabriel, and it's in a movie. This is actually legitimate, authorized lyric version. This is actually very cool. So, and you're right about the emotion with John. He sings it with a lot of heart.
Well,
his language.
Talking about emotion, the emotions, unfortunately, are finishing now because the show is just about to finish. Ladies and gentlemen, Jazz Across the Pond, would you please join us and extend a fabulous thank you to the wonderful Dr. Ed Calle, Hal Batt, Mike Lewis. Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us. The album is Soulful Nights. Buy it. Go out and buy it. You will love it. From Kevin and myself, take care. Look after everybody. Good night.
Good night.
Moonshots, spend it all, the have-nots, money, we make it, for we see it, you take it. Oh, you wanna holler the way they do my life, yeah, make me wanna holler the way they do my life. This ain't living, this ain't living. No, no, baby, this ain't living. No, 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 no. Inflation, no chance to increase finance. Bills pile up, sky high. send that boy off to die. Oh, make me wanna holler the way they do my life. Yeah, make me wanna holler the way they do my life. All the same. Setbacks, natural fact is, oh honey, now I can't pay my taxes.